All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really tough but super important topic, pathological shamelessness. We're going to explore what happens when the very defenses a person builds to protect themselves become the source of their deepest problems. So let's just jump right in with the core question of this whole guide. You know, when you hear someone say, "I don't have a problem," it's often a huge red flag. It can signal a massive gap between how they see themselves and how everyone else is actually experiencing them. And wow, this image just lays that gap out perfectly, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the story they tell themselves. I'm strong, I'm independent. But then look at the right. That's the reality for everyone around them. Isolation, manipulation, and real profound loneliness. It's like their internal story is so loud, it completely drowns out the reality of the damage they're causing.
All right, to really get a handle on what's going on here, we have to place it on a spectrum. Because, and you might find this surprising, shame isn't always a bad thing. It can actually be healthy and necessary. It's the extremes. That's where things get dangerous.
So, check this out. On one side, you have toxic shame, which just paralyzes people. Then, right in the sweet spot, there's healthy shame or guilt. That's kind of like our moral compass, right? It keeps us in check. But then you go all the way to the other end, and that's where we find pathological shamelessness. This is where someone is just completely walled off from feedback with zero remorse. And that is where the real trouble starts.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What does this actually look like in real life? The source material gives us 5 core characteristics that really define the anatomy of this problem.
First up, you have this fortress against any kind of criticism. And I don't just mean disagreeing. I mean it's an instant, automatic deflection. The feedback doesn't even have a chance to land before a wall of excuses goes right up. And, that naturally leads to the next thing, a trail of burned bridges. You see this pattern of intense but short-lived relationships, and the story is always the same. The other person? Oh, they were the crazy one, the unreasonable one. It was always their fault.
This one is so important. When you actually confront them about something they did, the reaction isn't guilt. It's not, "Oh man, I'm sorry I hurt you." No, it's irritation. It's anger that you even brought it up. The problem becomes the confrontation itself, not their original action.
And that anger is always backed up by a story. There's this constant narrative, this well-rehearsed justification for why what they did wasn't just okay, but it was absolutely necessary. Or, even worse, why the other person deserved it.
And finally, it all comes together in how they view other people. People aren't really people, they're tools. They're either useful for getting something or they're an obstacle in the way. There's really not much room for genuine connection outside of that.
Okay, so clinically speaking, this pattern tends to show up in a couple of main ways. With narcissistic personality disorder, shamelessness is like this suit of armor protecting a super fragile ego. But with antisocial personality disorder, it's a bit different. It's more like a genuine lack of a conscience, a real inability to feel what others are feeling. All right, this is where we're going to pause and turn the lens inward for a bit. The next part of our guide is a self-assessment tool, and it's an invitation to take a really honest look at these patterns. Okay, take a second here and be really honest with yourself. Look at these questions. Like number 1, have 3 or more people use the exact same words to describe a problem with my behavior? Or how about number 4, when someone says I've hurt them, is my first instinct to explain why I did it instead of just acknowledging how they feel? The guide down at the bottom will help you see if there's a real pattern here. This is a tough but really important moment for self-reflection. So if any of that felt a little too familiar, the big question is, can this change? And the answer is yes, but, and this is a huge but, it is incredibly hard for one very specific reason. Just look at that number, 64%. That is a staggering statistic. For every single person with NPD who actually finishes therapy, 2 others quit. And it's not because the therapy is bad, it's because the process of therapy itself feels like a direct attack on their entire sense of self. And this quote, man, this just nails it. The treatment feels like sustained psychological torture. Why? Because you have to look in the mirror over and over again and accept that you might be the problem. You have to sit with that exact feeling of shame that you've spent your entire life running from. Which leads us right into this massive paradox, the catch-22 of it all. To even start therapy, you need a little bit of humility. You need to be able to say, hey, maybe I'm wrong. But the condition itself is designed to destroy every last drop of that humility. But look, it's not hopeless. It's really not. The way forward isn't about just waiting for some big emotional breakthrough. No, it's about methodically, and sometimes uncomfortably, building new skills. It's like building a new circuit in your brain, one wire at a time. So the first part of this roadmap is a 4-step process. And notice how it starts. Acknowledge the pattern. We're not getting bogged down arguing about one specific fight. It's about seeing the big picture. It's about learning to intellectually understand how other people see things, even if you can't feel it yourself, and admitting that your own internal compass is broken and needs outside calibration.
All right, now here's a super practical, in-the-moment tool. Think of it as a protocol for when things get heated. First, you pause. Then, you reflect back what you heard them say. Next, clarify their point of view. Then, and this is the hard part, you sit with the discomfort. And finally, you acknowledge their reality. Look, this is going to feel totally robotic at first, and that's okay. That's the whole point. You're literally manually building a new habit in your brain.
Okay, I have to be really clear about this. This is not something you can just fix with a self-help book. We're talking about a deep, personality-level issue that needs a specialist. If any of these things on the screen are happening in your life, if you're having legal trouble, getting fired repeatedly, or if people are telling you they're actually afraid of you, this isn't a maybe situation. It's an emergency. You need professional help, period. So when you put it all together, it really comes down to a final, very clear choice. The source material frames it perfectly as a simple cost-benefit analysis. Just look at the scales here. On one side, yeah, there's the cost of therapy. It takes time, it takes money, I get it. But look at what's on the other side, the cost of doing nothing. We're talking lost jobs, legal bills, broken families, a whole life spent alone. When you actually weigh it out like this, the choice becomes pretty obvious, doesn't it? And that's the final takeaway. That suit of armor you built to protect yourself, it's become your prison. The same walls that you thought were keeping the shame out are also keeping any real human connection from getting in. So that leaves just one last, really crucial question you need to ask yourself before you pick up the phone and find a specialist. At the end of the day, what's more important? Being right or being connected?